Okay, so I think I am live now, so that's exciting. Hello, sorry for the delay. Um, what I had scheduled earlier, but I was having some. Oh shit! Hold on. Okay, so speaking of mechanical problems, um, sorry, I was having some earlier, so I didn't get on as soon as I would have liked to, but I'm here now, and that's all that matters. So, I decided that I am going to start doing a weekly live just to kind of keep myself on like a consistent schedule where at least I'm just doing something live every week and it's only once a week. I can do more if I want to, but just start with that. So I'm starting with Wednesdays. So that is tonight. So I figured this would be a good time to do the inaugural episode of my podcast, the ACAB True Crime podcast, which I am calling Do You Want to Hear Some Fucked Up Shit? Um, because I think that that is probably a good overview of what generally will be taking place during this podcast or live. So that's just a little background on goals and what I'm hoping that this will look like in just the future. So I guess I have a little outline. And I saw this thing earlier today there was like a quote that said something about how imperfect action is better than perfecting thought or something like that. I'm sure you guys can kind of understand it, but I am trying to take that to heart, and I'm feeling like I know I say this a lot when I well, I'll come on and I'll be like, I have all these goals and stuff for the channel, but I do think that this is a pretty reasonable goal for me to have, and I do think that I've had the opportunity over the last couple of years to figure out, I think, how to be more consistent and how to actually put out better content. So, anyways, I don't think anyone really cares about this stuff except me, but I do just kind of want to put it out there. Um, so yeah, welcome to the inaugural episode of Do You Want to Hear Some Fucked Up Shit? Episode 1, True Crime, ACAB True Crime. I am ACAB True Crime, and I have a YouTube channel, and you can also follow me on TikTok. And I have a background in criminal clinical psychology, and I have had about a decade of experience working in forensic psychology and have a lot of experience with just knowing the forensic process of the court system. And I definitely, in my opinion, feel like our prison system is basically just was a place for mental health facility people, residents to go. I think it was like when Reagan kind of deinstitutionalized things back in like the 80s in terms of mental health facilities and stuff. I think that a lot of those people ended up just being kind of streamlined into the prison system, and it's kind of out of control because that's not where good funding goes in order to treat those types of illnesses and just problematic behaviors and whatnot. And it's unfortunate because if we are actually wanting to keep our neighborhoods and society safer, we should be wanting to make people be healthier than they are when they're red rumming people. So, um, that I guess is just like a little bit of my theory behind where I am able to put in a good perspective. And I think it's different than a lot of people put out too. So, I normally wouldn't say this on like every live that I do, but just since it's like the first episode of a podcast, I think I'm going to try to figure out how to post it on like a podcast thing too. I don't have any experience with that, but um, but like my little note says, imperfect action is better. Like I will learn along the way. So, um, all right. So that is the first thing. And I just today, like I said, I want to start an ongoing weekly thing where I go live every Wednesday. And I think at the minimum, I'm going to say that I will have the live last an hour minimally. And usually I feel like I can easily go over that time, or if there's actually like a lot of interesting stuff to go over, I could see myself going live more than once a week and more than an hour. But just to kind of start off with, that's what I'm going to kind of be looking at today in order to figure out when I'm going to wrap up and stuff. So, and I'll see how it's going. But I figured what I would do with this hour live every week, it would be a good opportunity to just kind of do a weekly like roundup of stuff that has come out during the week or even that specific day that I have some thoughts about, or I might, try to plug a video that I did earlier in the week or something relevant to some of the stuff that I'm talking about in the live. So it's not too structured, but I definitely have a ton of cases that I have been researching and interested in. And so I think that I have more than enough content or like shit to talk about that it's all kind of fucked up shit. So that's why the name of the podcast is, I feel like, appropriate, because it's called Do You Want to Hear Some Fucked Up Shit? So but today specifically, I thought it would be good for me to go over. It was kind of a busy day in court for two of the cases that I'm currently following, and they are actually two pretty high profile, like probably like the two most high profile cases right now in terms of like celebrity. Both cases are taking place in LA, and it was interesting. So the two cases that I'm talking about are the Nick Reiner case, and I have a handful of videos. I think no, I don't. No, I don't. I have one good length video, long length video, but a longer length video where I go over my thoughts about Nick Reiner and the case that's going on currently. And there was a status hearing that was scheduled for today where it was put out. I guess they kind of, it sucked. Neither of the cases, so the second case was David, and I'll get into the more details about the like what came out today in that hearing, because that definitely, I feel like, gave us a lot more kind of like um bombshell updates and then compared to the Nick Reiner case. But I'll just put the Nick Reiner case out there here for now, just because I think it is worthy of mentioning. So it sounds like they have put off Nick's. So Nick is the son of Michelle and Rob Reiner, who were red rummed, and the state is alleging that their son Nick Reiner did it, and they have evidence to show that he did. And I did some research on it, and you can see that in kind of the information that I gathered on that longer form video that I have about the Reiners. But I feel like from what I've seen of the case, it seems like he is struggling with un um uncontrolled or not necessarily regulated mental health issues, like severe mental health issues. And I do think that that was probably a large part of the reason why that happened. So it seems like the case is kind of going along that same route, where now that they pushed back the date for a preliminary hearing for, I believe it's September 15th now. And Nick waived a right to a speedy trial. And so I honestly think what's probably happening is, because I think it sounded like the reason why they were pushing it back with the dates is because maybe some of the evidence hasn't been able to be processed yet, or they haven't been able to have an opportunity to look at it and, like, apply it to the case itself. And what I think that that probably has to do with is that Nick is currently being evaluated at the kind of psych unit at the downtown LA County jail. And it's really interesting. I don't have like the stats right in front of me. I think I did bring it up though in that Reiner video, but it is a huge health facility. It's like in the downtown LA jail because of how many people filter through that jail in a given week or day. I mean, it's like there's two huge hospitals that just are responding to the people that are coming through the jail doors. And then on top of like these two like hospital towers that they have, then they have the central jails, which that's where they just house general offenders. So anyone who's like needing any special care in terms of mental health or physical health can go to the hospital, which is where Nick is right now in Twin Towers. And I'm pretty sure it's due to his mental health. And it sounded like he was on the psych unit. And I believe, in my opinion, what my best guess would be is that he is still currently undergoing some of the psych assessments and maybe even some of the figuring out whether or not he will be competent to stand trial. It sounded like he was having trouble with his medications before the um, incident happened or the red rooms took place. And again, like you can reference that video that I did before. So that is the update. And so probably not much more going on with the Nick Reiner case until this fall. So it'll be interesting to see if they come out with anything else in between. And I'll keep an eye on that and keep you guys posted too. But right now, it seems like more will come out in a couple of months, which is frustrating. These cases can just seem to take so long. Like, I feel like I'm interested in so many of the cases, and all of them just keep getting pushed like further and further back, and either like maybe getting canceled. Like the Koberger trial was like a really big bummer when that went to a plea deal. And I'm still like considering using some of my like live times or even starting its own little video montage for stuff in the Idaho 4 case that I feel like I like did so much work on, and I thought I was going to have the opportunity to discuss it during the trial process. But since that didn't happen, I still want to find a way to talk out some of that stuff. And it's so much information, so it's a little overwhelming, but I am definitely still thinking about doing that too. But that's just an example of something that things can, not always go the way that we think that they will in the criminal justice system. So hold on, I'm going to take a little sip here. Okay, so that's Nick Reiner stuff, and then for the rest of the video or this live, I think I'll talk about the David case and the updates about that we found out today during his preliminary hearing. It came out in a brief that hasn't been released to the public yet, and I am planning on emailing the LA County Sheriff's Office to ask for the material because the judge did say that it can't. The defense wanted it to be sealed, and the judge said no, it wasn't going to be sealed. So, and then there's all these like different news channels that are reporting on what the brief says, but there's not. I haven't come across the actual like raw file of the brief that everyone's referencing. But if it has been made public, then it should be able to be, distributed. So I'm going to email, I think, the sheriff's office tomorrow if something doesn't turn up like in a Reddit post or something. And, but today I ended up downloading like making downloading a couple articles that go over pretty in detail about what the brief that the prosecution presented in the defense case today, or in the David case today. So just going over that, I haven't read it in detail, and I'm really interested because some of the things that I just was hearing right off the bat sounded pretty extreme and like, I don't know, like grotesque and detailed in terms of what the prosecution believes happened between David and Celeste. So I figured we could start off going over that and then just discussing kind of thoughts about new things that are coming up with the information in that brief, and then tie it back to possibly some of the other research that I've been doing on the David case before he was arrested. And there was a couple of things that came up just in the last week that since he's been arrested and the prosecution has been, sharing with us, and I've been like, oh, that kind of actually matches some of the prior research that I was doing on him, because I did a pretty big deep dive. And there's another video that you can check out that I did on the David case earlier, like last fall. I didn't follow up the way that I was planning on following up, but I did do a lot of information gathering, and I watched a ton of interviews with him and listened to all of his songs and looked up and did research on some of these beliefs and topics and theories and philosophies that he was talking about. So it'd be fun to kind of share some of that with you guys too, and just maybe brainstorm about how that might look, or how it could within a like psych profile of someone like David, or someone that could do what happened to Celeste could do. So I'll start off with pulling up those two new articles, and I'll share that with you guys. Hold on really quick. Should we do LA Times or should we do Rolling Stone first? Let's do Rolling Stone. Well, I feel like Rolling Stone will be better, so maybe I should save that for last. But it's not that big of a deal, so I'm going to just start with Rolling Stone. And let's see if whoa, okay, all right, so just making sure that there isn't anything that you guys can see that says like my name when I share this page. Okay, not that I am too worried about that, but you never know. People out here these days, but on these YouTube streets, on the online streets. Okay, let's see. I am sharing share screen. Allow window. Yep, here we go. Okie dokie. What? I don't really like that. Oh, okay, I kind of like that one. I'm gonna do this one. Okay. All right, so this was published by the Rolling Stones today, April 29th, 2026, by Nancy Dillon. And it says David was last person to drive Tesla before girl's body was found in trunk, prosecutors say. So yeah, I'm interested to see what this article says. Let me just take one more little sippy sip before I get into this. So just in case you didn't hear or you haven't been updated on this yet, like the singer David, who is a popular online singer, had like billions of streams, got started really young. It was all kind of self-made, and like he got really big through like internet stuff and video games. Like he made his own soundtracks for Fortnite and stuff. Anyways, he was arrested last week and charged with a couple of different charges, but like most significantly or substantially, he was arrested for the red rum of a 14-year-old girl named Celeste Rivas Hernandez. So, and they released some information last week, but not a ton. So this is hopefully going to give us a lot more. Then we have David appeared in court Wednesday today as his lawyers asked preliminary to be delayed several weeks. The evidence, blah, 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 hearing that was set to begin Friday has been pushed to. Sorry, this is like minutes after the hearing ended. Prosecutors released a blah, 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 blockbuster evidence brief claiming that surveillance video and other evidence confirmed defendant was the last person to drive his Tesla before the dismembered and decomposed remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas were found in the front truck last September. The brief obtained by Rolling Stone also claims the platinum selling singer born Anthony, oh my god, I'm sorry you guys, born David Anthony Burke first met Rivas when she was 11 years old. That's pretty crazy. So I wonder, so how old would he have been if she was 11? Well, if she was 14, that was only 3 years ago. So that would have been, well, she was 14 in 2020, like fall of 2025. So then go back 3 years, she would be 11 from there, and so then that would be fall of 2022. She would have been 11. Huh. And I think David started getting big around like 2020 or 2021. And David has an interesting background, and I think it does make sense a little bit and contributes his background into kind of this case conceptualization with him that's going on with this particular crime and case, if he is the one that did it. And it seems like they do have some pretty solid evidence showing that he did, but it'll be interesting to also be able to hear what the defense has to say about it too. So how old is David now? I don't know if we know. I think he's like, I don't know, how much older is he than Celeste? Okay. The brief obtained by Rolling Stone also claims, already said this. Okay. Prosecutors allege Burke began a sexual relationship with Rivas when she was 13. So that's just 1 year before they found her body last September. So, okay, so here we go. They allege Riverside County officials contacted Burke in February 2024 and informed him of Rivas's age after she was reported missing by her family. Okay, so let me just think about this. So, February of 2024, and then they found her in the fall of 2025. And okay. So this is a year and a half before she was found, is when they are saying that David was contacted and informed that she was underage and that she was also missing and was reported missing by her family. The circumstances and present state of discovery led us to conclude, this is all quotes from the brief, by the way, that the prosecution presented today. The circumstances and present state of discovery led us to conclude we need this additional time to review the discovery we just got or are about to get, Burke's defense lawyer, Marilyn Bednarski, said at the Wednesday afternoon hearing. Okay, so scratch that. Actually, it was not the prosecution that said that. That was David's lawyer that said that. But that makes sense depending on how much information they're about to like unload on David and his lawyers. Judge Charlene Almedo asked Burke if he agreed to the postponement. Yes, Your Honor, he replied. Burke, 21. Okay, so he's 21. Okay, so he's 21. So he was last September. Last September, let's just say he was probably 20 last September. and she was 14. So he's like 6 years older than her. So when he met her when she was 11, it sounds like maybe he was actually 17. But that would still be considered, I think that the age difference is too large where that wouldn't be considered, or I don't know, since they're both minors. But anyways, I'd have to look that up. Maybe I should write that down. But um, Burke, 21, has been charged with the first-degree murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the 14-year-old girl found dismembered and badly decomposed in the front trunk of his Tesla last September. Prosecutors also charged him with continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14 and unlawful mutilation of human remains. So they're saying that, and this is what they came out with last week too, but they for sure are saying now that he had a sexual relationship with her. They added special circumstance. This is all last week too. And I have another video, a short video, like a 5-minute update video that I published last week about David getting arrested and some of the stuff that the prosecution was telling us in press releases, but not actually giving us statements like this brief that they just released. So some of the stuff we heard from them last week, but didn't see actually evidence. So, and even now today, we aren't seeing evidence. We haven't seen the brief, but at least we'll be able to. And it sounds like the defense is like making some pretty explicit claims that they do have evidence that makes it seem like David was pretty closely involved, or like not necessarily involved, but for sure closely around when all this stuff was going on. Okay, so they added special circumstance allegations of murder of a witness, murder for financial gain, and lying in wait, which makes him eligible for the death penalty, though prosecutors have not decided yet whether to pursue it. Burke has pleaded not guilty. Last week, Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, I think it looks like maybe reviewed Burke's iCloud account. I don't know. Yeah, reviewed or something, recorded something, obtained by investigators. Fuck, man. She described as a significant amount of child prawn, which is not a word. And I used to work with sex offenders in prisons, like that were there for like some pretty horrible child offenses and also just adult sexual offenses, but some of the kid stuff was like really, really bad. And I worked in 2 different sex offender prisons in 2 different prisons. And like I have some stories. Actually, I just like there's a channel that goes and like will like do video, they'll upload video conferences of people's review boards for their what's it fucking called? For their parole. And I've seen them do it for different states like around the country. Like I've seen them do it for people like in Indiana, I think, and for sure a couple from the Minnesota DOC. And I was like trying to see if I knew any of them. And then one of them, the most messed up crime that I think I've ever worked with, maybe like closely or done an evaluation on someone for, was this guy who was up for parole. And it was just like 2 months ago, and there was like this was his first time he was ever up for parole. And I'm like really interested to watch it because I was like, oh my God, that's him. And I mean, I bet that they're using my eval that I wrote on him, like for that parole meeting, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I'm like really interested to see it. But I mean, I know a lot of that is like confidential information, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know if it is confidential when it's like within the prison system and that they're using it at public parole hearings. And I would like to speak on it a little bit. And it wasn't like I just did a court ordered psych eval. I didn't do therapy with this guy. So I think that that's like where confidentiality comes off a little differently, like not outside of the criminal justice system. Because usually you can't go around telling people like who you had as clients and stuff. But again, like when it comes to criminal justice. I don't know if it like holds up the same way. Or I know it doesn't. Anyways, they say that Burke's iCloud account had a significant amount of child um, prawn, and Burke's lawyers, Marilyn Bednarski and Blair Burke, pressed for an immediate preliminary hearing. Oh, so yeah, this was last week, and it was like the prosecution was like, yeah, we arrested him and we have a bunch of stuff on him, but we're not going to show you anything yet because there's like so much information and we can't like possibly give it to you right now. Like that's what they were saying in the defense. And then the defense was like, no, like if you're sitting here and saying that he has like a bunch of child sexual abuse material on his phone, which I think it's like not it's not called child pornography because that there isn't any child porn. Like it's just like children can't agree and give consent to be in pornographic films because it's illegal. And so it's always child sexual abuse material. So, and it's weird that people don't know that, but I think people like the I guess like what's that factor? Like the wow factor or whatever of like the word child pornography maybe, but anyways, the his lawyer said, well, we need to like have an immediate preliminary hearing, then show us like your evidence if you're going to say that he has a bunch of like child porn on his phone. And then Judge Charlene Almeida said it would begin this Friday, May 1st. So that was supposed to be happening on Friday. Burke was arrested on April 16th in a house in the Hollywood Hills. And okay, I'm just going to read this whole thing because I feel like there might be information that I haven't heard. Prosecutors said police served a simultaneous search warrant at the property not far from the iconic Chateau Marmont Hotel. Silverman said the case involves a large volume of evidence, including material obtained through a wiretap. That's interesting. A wiretap. I wonder to whose phone. And that 3 grand juries were convened in recent months to investigate. And we did hear about that. We had heard about that over the last like 7 or 8 or 9 months since since her body was found in his Tesla. We've been hearing that certain people have been subpoenaed, or I think it's called to be witnesses in the grand jury, and some of them were trying to get out of it, like his family and his friends, but they made some of them come in. I think his family didn't have to, but they made his friends come in, and it sounded like they were getting some information from that, and maybe there would be, I don't know a lot of information about that, but that was where they were gathering enough information to be able to arrest him without actually having to go through the preliminary hearing, which is kind of a weird thing anyways, but that's a whole other conversation. Okay, long-awaited autopsy report released last week. Okay, so I will say I made a 5-minute video last week giving updates, and then like the night that I was publishing it is when the autopsy reports came out, and I wanted to update about that, and I have some thoughts that are associated with that, but I'll get into that. Like I'll just go over all the facts right now that the prosecution's saying, and then I'll follow up with the research that I've done that maybe like corresponds or actually like conflicts with some of the stuff that's being presented here. So the long-awaited autopsy report released last week concluded Rivas died from multiple penetrating injuries to the upper abdomen. It described 2 stab wounds that perforated her liver and chest. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. Okay, so multiple penetrating injuries, 2 stab wounds that. So she died from multiple penetrating injuries, and then they also described 2 stab wounds that perforated her liver and chest. So that's obviously like, I don't know what that word is, but obviously it means that like when a knife sticks into someone. Let's see, pierced with a hole or holes. Oh yeah. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. The report also described the conditions of her remains, noting dismemberment and advanced decomposition that made visual identification and fingerprinting impossible. Impossible, huh? Toxicology showed a low level of ethanol and presumptive positives for several drugs pending confirmation. What is a presumptive positives? But that means if she had low levels of ethanol, that means that she wasn't drinking, probably. Prosecutors allege Rivas was last seen entering Burke's Hollywood Hills home on April 23rd, 2025, so almost like exactly a year ago. And she was red rum that day. They contend her body was mutilated weeks later. Burke's lawyers, I don't know, but I think that they're saying have said David did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez. If convicted as charged, Burke faces either life in state prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Prosecutors have said a decision on whether to seek the death penalty will be made at a later date. I made a comment about that in my 5-minute David video too that I have an opinion on. Born in New York and later raised in Texas, Burke first gained attention as a Fortnite gamer and musician with the self-produced song You and I. He broke through to mainstream success in the summer of 2022. Oh, interesting. So, okay, so he met her in 2022 when she was 11. And apparently that is when he also started like finding some of this mainstream success. So, interesting overlap there. With the hit singles Romantic Homicide and Here With Me, after they garnered so much traction on TikTok, they jumped to spots on the Billboard charts. He released his debut EP, Petals to Thorns, in May 2023. His debut studio album Withered, was released in April 2025, 2 days after Rivas was seen for the last time. Interesting. Very interesting, that timing. At a press conference, LA DA Nathan Hotchman claimed that Rivas was only 13 years old when Burke allegedly engaged in repeated lewd and lascivious sexual relationships with her. Burke's action did not allegedly stop there, he said. When she threatened to expose his criminal conduct and devastate his musical career, Burke allegedly murdered her, cut up her body, and stuffed her in 2 bags that were placed in the front of his car, which that's what they said last week. Oops. Come on. What? That better not be it. What the fuck? That was a fucking lame ass article, dude. What the hell was that? That didn't give us any new information. But it said it was published today. That's super lame. Wow. I was like, Rolling Stones will be the best. I am very disappointed. Okay, let's now read the. Let's close that window. All right, now we'll read the LA Times one, and I'll hopefully be quicker about this one. Okay. Okay, here we go. David murder case hearing. This is from the Los Angeles Times. David murder case hearing will determine how soon evidence could spill into public view. Wait a second. Was that from? I wonder if this is from today. Oh no, that was from last week. That's his. I think those are both his lawyers. He looks kind of just depressed. But what can you really say from like one of those, you know? All right, so this again said it was published yesterday by James Quealy, so hopefully there's new information. Unlike the Rolling Stones article, evidence in the murder case against the singer David, who is charged with the brutal killing of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, could become public as soon as Friday, depending on the outcome of a hearing scheduled for this afternoon in downtown LA. Well, what the hell? No, this is wrong again too. What the hell? I thought I had new information from the hearing today. Like, there was definitely new information from the hearing today. Something else that came out in the autopsy, um, two of her fingers had been amputated, and that is something that I think could be relevant, that I have some thoughts that I want to share about later. The transcripts from the three secret grand juries between November and February 2026 were under seal. I wonder if those will open up. No, but we know this didn't happen. Oh my gosh, dude, this is like not cool. This is so lame. Well, what the heck? How? Okay, well, just give me a second. I'm gonna Google because I know for a fact that I saw information that was new, but I don't know why I didn't download those ones. Oh wow. Damn, yeah. See, there's new information for sure. But where is it? Okay. No. All right. So what David's defense lawyer said when they were trying to suppress the information that was coming out today, they said they asked the court to seal the evidentiary filing, saying it was one-sided and replete with hearsay and could potentially taint a future jury pool, but the judge denied the request. CNN reached out to Burke for comment Wednesday evening. Oh, okay. So, see, this is annoying, but okay, this is a good one to let's see here. This is CNN. I think will be a good one. Okay. Okay, okay. All right. So this is a article that CNN published today, and it sounds like they actually have the brief. So I'm like, where did these guys get it? Why can't they share with me? Okay, let's see. Here we go. All right. Prosecutors lay out a detailed and grisly timeline in case against singer David and alleged killing of a teen. Ooh, it is updated 23 minutes ago, so this should be hopefully up to date. by Ray Sanchez and Matthew Friedman. Okay, editor's note. So, trigger warning, story includes graphic and disturbing details. So, prosecutors today, on Wednesday, laid out a detailed and grisly timeline in the case against singer David, who is accused of killing 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, including allegations that he began sexually abusing her when she was 13, but he knew her when she was 11. So, interesting that he was probably grooming her at that point, and then fatally stabbed her when she threatened to expose their relationship. Damn. Celeste was believed to have been killed on April 23rd, 2025, one day after she and David, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke, had an argument during which she threatened to disclose damaging information about the relationship, in quotes, to end his career and destroy his life, according to a filing from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. So I wonder if they have actual evidence of that, did someone see the argument, or is it over text messages? That would be interesting to see. The singer, whose first studio album was released days later, took horrifying measures, this is quotes again, horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body, the filing said. Celeste died of multiple penetrating injuries, according to an autopsy report released earlier this month. She had wounds on her chest and abdomen that may represent sharp force injuries, the LA County Medical Examiner's Office said in the report, which was signed in December, but sealed for months at the request of law enforcement. Her body was discovered in the trunk of an impounded vehicle last September, a day after what would have been her 15th birthday. That's kind of weird that they actually found it a day after her 15th birthday, because it wasn't up to David when she was found. Like, he had left the car like a week or so. So, I mean, I guess he knew it was going to be like within a couple of weeks, but. Okay, they say she was reported missing by family and friends on several occasions starting in early 2024. So that was the one that the other article said. So in February of 2024, she was reported as a runaway, and that's when they called David to tell her that she was like underage, And then they say she was last seen alive going to David's home in April of 2025. So basically a year over the time where they first kind of knew that she was running away with him potentially, and then her actual death. And then they're alleging that he became sexual with her when she was, did they say when she was 13 or 14? Yeah, when she was 13. And so, yeah, so that actually matches up right over that time period. That, like, I bet in February of 2024, that would have been like right when she was turning 13. So the now 21-year-old singer was arrested earlier this month and has pleaded not guilty to charges, including first-degree murder. David's attorney Blair Burke said after the singer's arraignment that her client is innocent and evidence, in quotes, will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez and he was not the cause of her death. This is a picture of them going to arrest David last week, or on April 16th. Burke on Wednesday, today, asked the court to seal the evidentiary filing, saying it was one-sided and replete with hearsay and could potentially taint a future jury pool. The judge denied the request. CNN reached out to Burke for comment Wednesday evening. He had to silence the victim, prosecutors say. The night before authorities say Celeste was likely killed, she had a lengthy argument with David. Here we go. Described later in text messages that, in quote, reveal the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationship with other women, as defendant led her to believe they had a future together, according to the court document. Ooh. Okay, described later in text messages. So she was like texting him. It sounds like, okay, so it sounds like he was hooking up with the other women and she was jealous about it. And she was pissed at him because he was like making it seem like they had some future together, but in reality, he was like a player. And that's true. It's like, why even say that stuff, But I feel like people that are young and dumb and they just don't really know what the hell. Like I did that stupid shit too a little bit, but I learned because I was like, oh, that's not like a good way to do life and relationships. But I like, anyways, that's a story for another day. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life, prosecutors wrote, noting that his first studio album's release date was April 25th, 2025. So, okay, something here that is noteworthy to me is it says she became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship. Okay, like there was that one. I wonder. Okay, like there's this one TikTok. No, it was a stream. It was a stream, and it's like a popular one because like that's been going around a lot like since he was arrested because and like all these kind of sleuths that have been looking into his streams and it's interesting because he definitely did have like an internet presence, and but like in different it's kind of like the same thing with Brian Koberger, like finding all these like old accounts and being like, oh, okay, I'm pretty sure this is him. But there was one stream where they were like joking and he was like telling the mods to delete the whole thing and then she like makes some joke and I think it is for sure him or her and David together, like Celeste, and then she was like something about like the R word or something like that. And then she kind of giggles and then he's like, mods, okay, get rid of all of this. So I wonder what date that was. Because I wonder if that's like overlapping a little bit when they started to have these types of problems. Okay, so it says on April 23rd, 2025, the singer sent an Uber to pick up Celeste at her home in Lake Elsinore at about 8:40 p.m. and bring her to his Hollywood Hills home around 10:10, the court document says. Okay, so crazy. So she lived in Lake Elsinore, which is like outside of LA a little bit, I think. I'm pretty sure. And that is like where her family lived. And that's like where she had gone missing from. And I'm pretty sure that the other times that she had gone missing, it seems like she went and stayed with David. Um, or at least like over the times that she was with David. Let's see. The city has grown from a small resort town in the late 19th and 20th century to a suburban city with a population of 70,000 in 2020 census. But like, where is it? Well, it sounds like if he had an Uber come and pick her up at 8:40 and then she got to his house at 10:10, that's an hour and a half away in a car. Here's Celeste, R.I.P. She seems like she was cool. Like I bet I would have been friends with her in high school. At about 10:30 p.m. that night, David texts Celeste in what prosecutors describe as part of his premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead by this time. What? Okay, damn. So they're saying that the Uber dropped her off at 10:10, and then by 10:30, they believe that she was already gone, and that he had started doing part of his plan for premeditating to cover up the murder. So they're like, yeah, it only took 20 minutes. They said knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his musical career, as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival, yeah, very soon, at his home, defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out, the filing said. Damn. That's pretty brutal. Weird. Like, it's a different, obviously, level of, horror when people actually, so I feel like a lot of times when people red rum people, it's like out of an emotional response, usually where they're just reacting and not really thinking that much. And even if they are premeditating it, it's still probably an emotional reaction to something going on between those people, you would assume, because why else would you want to like kill someone? But they're saying here that um he stabbed her and then he let her just sit there and not like finish her off, just let her like agonize and bleed out. Like, so that's a kind of like almost like a level of torture or like gore where you're like, I feel like most people just get it over with, you know what I mean? But to sit there and be like, I'm gonna watch while you struggle and die is kind of is like crazy. Knowing he had to silence the victim. Oh, I already said that. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 or take her to an emergency room to attempt to save her life. Celeste's dismembered remains were found in David's Tesla in Los Angeles on September 8th, 2025. The vehicle was apparently abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and towed to a police impound lot, where an employee noticed a foul smell emanating from the trunk and alerted authorities. It sounds like that stuff kind of happens a lot, maybe at that police impound lot. At least that's what it seemed like when I was reading about it. Prosecutors wrote that David bought. Oh, wow. Oh, they had proof about him buying 2 chainsaws online. Yikes. Gross. Wow. And this kind of goes along with some of the stuff that I was finding out earlier, like last fall with his music. He was very into gore, and his whole thing was gore. I mean, people would dress up in white shirts with like blood spatters all over to go to his concerts because it was like, his most famous song was it Romantic Homicide? And like all of his videos have to do with like, like killing someone or trying to bury someone or just weird stuff. And I did, when I was doing all that research, like last fall, I spent so much time trying to get these perfect clips to show what I was like. I was in my head being like, I came up with this like perfect little story about, what he was actually experiencing and why he was doing that stuff, which is like totally not appropriate. But I mean, it's appropriate. It's all fucking just a guess. It's like, but it's basically the same as like writing a story. It's not like I can actually say that he did any of this stuff, and it's not like I don't know at all if it's true. So it like, but it is interesting to be like, you know, it's just my theory. You know what I mean? So, anyways, he bought 2 chainsaws online, um, and that he used them to dismember Celeste's body in an inflatable pool. Interesting. I wonder if that's because it just was like a good place to be able to clean up the blood. Probably. Because you would like think about doing it maybe in a bathtub or like I've heard of cases of when people do dismembering, they like will do it in a bathtub, but it's like gross because obviously there's like a drain there, and it's just super gross when you dismember bodies. I mean, I remember hearing this one case, and this is like a little bit grotesque, but there was these 2 women. I can't remember who they were, like what case it was, but I can't even remember who they did it to. I think it was like their stepdad or something like that. But it was like 2 women, and they ended up deciding to dismember a body, and they did it in the bathroom in the tub. And they were like saying, like, the one woman described it as being like so horrible smelling, and that you don't realize like how much, like, when you're like trying to dismember a freaking body, there is just a lot of organs and things that can just be really hard to let you dismember it. Like, I mean, a chainsaw is what you kind of need, like, and I don't think that, I don't know, a bone saw, like, it's just like really gross to think about, obviously. But, anyways, so her pool or her DNA was found in his garage. Oh, damn. I wonder what kind of like DNA and how much. Because obviously we know that she had spent time at his house before, like we know that she went to his house that night and was like, maybe there must have been a reason why he was telling her that she should come over, you know what I mean? according to prosecutors who said her body was cut apart. The singer also made online purchases of a body bag, which they said that that was what her body was found in, was a body bag with like a bunch of handles and heavy duty laundry bags. Oh, and those were the other bags that I think that they said last week that they found her in. She was like separated into two different containers or bags, and there was like one that was like a heavy duty laundry bag, and then there was like another that was the actual body bag, I think. This says, according to court document, defendant took horrifying measure to destroy and discard the victim's body. Prosecutor said in the document. David amputated her left ring and pinky fingers. Pinky fingers. So is she missing 3 fingers? They say David amputated her left ring and pinky fingers. Oh, no. Okay, so just the left ring and pinky. Not both pinkies. Just the 2 ring and pinky on the left hand. They say it's because her ring finger contained a tattoo of his name. Okay, so the court document said her fingers have not been recovered. Okay, this is where I have a little bit of like a wonky theory, but it's worth sharing. But it's very, very hypothetical. Like if this stuff was actually put into like a court report, or if like a psychologist like wrote a report that has the stuff that I'm saying in it, it would be not acceptable. Like, you know what I mean? You have to actually be able to prove shit. You can't just like say stuff. But that's what's kind of nice about being on YouTube and not like having to worry about losing a license. Like I can just give my opinion on shit, and it's not, my professional opinion. This is just for fun. So anyways, I will share that with you guys in a little bit, but I know that she also had another finger that said shh on it. She had a tattoo that said shh. And I wonder if I should check the autopsy, because it sounds like she had a David tattooed and then also shh tattooed, but I don't think it was on the pinky. And it's interesting that he would have chosen to take off the pinky and the ring finger if he just needed to get the ring finger. So, like I said, I'll follow up with that in a second. They say small blue plastic fragments were embedded into the victim's remains, and an LAPD expert made a physical fit match from. Oh, I was just about to say that, because I heard blue plastic fragments like before, and I was like, what the hell would that be from? But when I just read it again, I was like, oh, I bet it was from like him using the chainsaw like in that inflatable pool. And it sounds like that is what it was. They say that they made a physical match from blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool in which Celeste was dismembered, the document said. Before departing on a concert tour in late July, the document said the artist parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home. Really, it was just around the corner from his home. I kind of thought that he was like trying to ditch it somewhere, but that's pretty crazy if it was just around the corner. Prosecutors say texts reveal relationship. The evidence outlined by the state includes photos of Celeste and the singer engaged in sexual activities. Wow. They have photos of them engaged in sexual activity. I mean, okay, here's my question. So, like, if you record a prawn with a partner and you're both minors, like, let's say that they made it when she was. Well, no, I don't think that they ever dated. Oh, shit, what was their age? I think their age difference is 6 years. And so she met him when he was 17 and she was 11, but they didn't actually start hooking up until he was 19 and she was 13. And so he would have been an adult, and it would have been him taking pictures of having sex with her, or like her doing sexual stuff to him, or vice versa. And she would have been 13. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Just keep reading. Yeah. Okay, which investigators say began when she was 13 and he was 18. Investigators believe the two met when Celeste was 11 years old, the filing says. Text messages through March of 2025 show how David allegedly manipulated the victim. Celeste wrote in one message, according to the prosecutors, "Oh, damn, dude. Oh my God. I want to see this brief. I'm pissed, man. Why can't you share it with the public and not just CNN?" I'm going to definitely email the LA County's office so I can get this brief. "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself," Celeste said. "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." Huh. Good for you, girlfriend. Celeste's parents report her missing in February 2024. Remember, that's when they sent detectives to go tell David that she was underage and that that she was missing. Detectives with the Riverside County Sheriff Department contacted David, who told them he had only who told them. So David told the Riverside County Sheriff's Department that he had only met her once and did not know her age, according to the document. Interesting. That's interesting that he would say that. Like, why say that you even know her at all? Like, did he know that they actually had, like photographic evidence? But he probably didn't, because it sounds like they just found it now. So that's interesting. But he was also just probably an idiot. I mean, he's young. And I also think from some of the stuff that I've been reading and figuring out about him, I think he really is not very based much in logical and realistic thinking. I think he's very much on a magical and um what's the word? Just grandiose and fantasized, like fantasy world kind of. Okay. Um when the teen returned home that February, her parents took away her cell phone. All right, so apparently she came back then after they had talked to David. Prosecutors say the defendant then drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a classmate of Celeste $1,000 to give her a phone. Okay. Interesting. Paid a classmate of Celeste $1,000 to give her a phone. I mean, are phones really that expensive? Like, couldn't he just buy her a phone that's just what do they call them? Burn phone, like a burner. And those don't cost $1,000. But he probably just had all this money and he was trying to be a cool dude and just didn't was awkward as hell and had no idea how to actually interact with people. And was again living in kind of a fantasy world where he thought this was made sense or was made him look cool or something. Celeste and David spent significant time together throughout 2024, including weekend trips to his Hollywood Hills home and visits to Las Vegas, London, and Texas. Whoa, to meet the singer's family, according to the document. That's pretty crazy. Okay. So his family met her, but they're probably going to say that they didn't know her real age. And then it's crazy that she went with him to Vegas, London, and Texas. London, that means he left the country with her. How was that possible? Or how do you fly with a minor without being related to them? Can you do that? That's interesting. It says text messages between the pair allegedly include references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and the Plan B emergency contraceptive. Okay. The Rivas Hernandez family is absolutely devastated by the findings, Celeste's family said in a statement after the release of the autopsy report. They respectfully ask for privacy, understanding, and patience as they process this information. I feel like I just would really like to. I just need to accept the fact that I don't have the brief, and I'm not going to get the brief right now. So I think we have good new information here, and I shouldn't be mad. But but this is pretty good and like new information. I mean, it sounds like pretty extensive that they have DNA evidence in his garage. They have text messages and like cellular data that proves that he like ordered Ubers and stuff for her, probably location to show that she did actually go to his place from Lake Elsinore, and also like corroborating witnesses that can say that David paid them $1,000 to get her phone. So, and obviously his family knows that he spent a lot of time with her. And if it's like all this talk about like morning after pill and emergency contraceptives, like, I mean, that's pretty good, obviously, evidence that they were doing it, you know? Oh my God. Okay, good. I'm so glad that that part didn't show up. Okay. Prosecutors say singer sexually abused teen for months. David, whose legal name is David Anthony. Wait, we already said Shamiro. Okay. I really would love to read those text messages. They say that he engaged in continuous sexual abuse of Celeste starting September of 2023. So she ran away in February of 2024. So it sounds like they started hooking up in September and then she ran away in February. He looks rough. Okay, Celeste's cause of death hasn't been released, but prosecutors accused Burke of using a deadly and dangerous weapon, mainly a sharp instrument. And after the horrific and gruesome murder, Hochman said in a news release, Burke dismembered Celeste's body and put her remains in two bags in the front of his car. That's what I was talking about earlier. And his attorneys say the actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. We will vigorously defend David's innocence. Oh, this is interesting. His defense lawyer, Burke, is a part of a high-powered law firm that has represented Harvey Weinstein, Kanye West, Britney Spears, among other celebrities. And this is when she requested the preliminary hearing as soon as possible. And then defense was like, we've received like no discovery. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that that is the most of information that we're going to be getting until I can actually get my hands on that brief. And once I do, I will definitely come on live and read it out for you. Okay. Oh, a victim was reported missing 3 times. The charges come nearly 2 years after the third and final time Celeste was reported missing by her family, capping a series of urgent pleas in early 2024 as loved ones and friends grew increasingly alarmed about the seventh grader's safety and whereabouts. She was 13 at the time, a teenager remembered in photos for her soft smile and thick curly hair. In September 2025, a day after what would have been her 15th birthday, we find her in the car. She was 14 at the time of her death. And that photographs obtained by CNN suggest she was alive almost a year after she was first reported missing. So, and that's what the police are saying too. They're saying that they have evidence of her going and interacting with David and getting to his house in April of 2025. And like I said, they were messing around. At least she ran away like in February 2024, and it sounds like they were hooking up since September of 2023. So it's kind of a long relationship to be having, especially if it started when she was 11. So she was in 5th grade. That is sad. Like a 17-year-old talking to a 5th grader. Yikes. But also, I think he is like really emotionally and like stunted, you know. and developmentally stunted. I mean, he was like homeschooled and grew up in like a religious family, and he's definitely an odd duck. Um, he is being held in jail without bail. Ooh, okay. Oh, yep. Here's what I was talking about. Oh, yep. In January of 2024, so a month before she went missing, the two appeared together in a live stream on Twitch, joking and talking into the early morning hours before David, laughing, said, "Delete everything." In between January and March of 2024, the singer was photographed stepping out of a black Tesla just blocks from Celeste's home. A local teenager later posted the images to TikTok. CNN geolocated and chronolocated the photos to verify when and where they were taken. You can do that shit? That's crazy. In June 2024, Celeste was photographed backstage at a sold out show David performed at the Fonda Theater in LA. A private investigator later uncovered additional images appearing to show the two together in late December 2024 and early January 2025. Interesting. Okay. All right, so that's enough of that, but that is interesting. And when you look at the autopsy, you can also see that she, like, where she was actually cut, like, in certain places, like, she was stabbed separate from where she was, like, dismembered, you know? Okay, so it's been an hour and 15 minutes, so I've reached my goal. But the thing that I was going to talk about that I think is really interesting and worthy of discussing, but for some reason I'm kind of doubting myself right now, was to go over previous research of mine and to talk about how the details align with this new stuff that we just found out and talked about just now with some of the previous research that I came across with him from um, last fall. And I just feel like I could do a better job presenting that information with a more concrete, like, presentation, like more of like a story. Because right now I feel like I'm kind of all over the place with some of my theories, but it does all fit together, and you guys are going to be like, damn, like once I talk about it, I think, because it's interesting to me at least. And even if it's not true, it's an interesting story. Like someone should write a book about this if this is not actually true, because I think it's interesting. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm sorry, I'm gonna sign off now because everything in moderation, and I don't need to like. Anyways, I don't. And then okay, you know what I'm gonna do? All right, so since he's not gonna have that live again on Friday because of it, they were supposed to have that preliminary hearing. I think I'm gonna schedule a live for Friday, and that is when I'm going to for sure present my theories with David and how talk about how they kind of overlap with the information that has been coming out over the last week after he's been arrested. And then I'll also talk about, I don't know what else I'll talk about, but for sure that, and then that'll give me enough stuff to talk about. But it's been interesting because I started to make this spreadsheet with all of the different cases that I've been following and then organizing them into different like file folders and hanging folders. And I almost got a free filing cabinet last week, but I was too late from the free giveaway in the alley that was posted, which is a major bummer because I think that those like metallic or like, yeah, the metal filing cabinets are pretty expensive, and it would seem like a nice one, and it'd be so perfect for what I need right now because I'm making all of these files, and this is basically just me gathering all of my notes that I've taken over the last 3 years that have to do with ACAB True Crime and the cases that I've been interested in, and entering them into a spreadsheet that talks about, the status of the current case and where things were left last time I touched upon that case and what's coming up so I can keep better track of like when these hearings are coming up, and just also just get a little bit better of a grasp on the cases that I'm truly following and wanting to spend time on. So maybe I'll go over some of those cases in the next live too on Friday, or maybe I'll save that for next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I can maybe talk about all the cases that I currently have pending that maybe you guys can tell me if you're interested in or if you have any thoughts on those cases. But anyways, I'm gonna end it here. So for anyone that is still here, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I appreciate you so much. If you're not subscribed, please, it's free. Subscribe to my channel. It'd be super, super awesome. I have a goal of gaining 20, no, 38 more followers. And I've been on that goal for a while now. And if I could just reach that, it would make me so happy. But I'm also super grateful for everyone that's watching now and all the subscribers that I currently have. And I feel very grateful. And yeah, I hope that everyone is having a good night. And let me know what you think about this case. And if you guys have any thoughts about the new information that has come up or any of the dates that were made with the two cases for Reiner and David today. And yeah, all right. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and love. Bye. ACAB out.